Here we are. It is Friday, October 11th, 2024, and this is, of course, the weekly video. We do these every Friday. As you can see, I'm up in New Hampshire for a few days. We had to come up and run back up here and do a few things. They're doing some work on the road out here, getting it ready for winter, and so forth. It's always something. At any rate, all is well here. It's a little chilly this morning. We've got a roaring fire going in the fireplace. It was in the low 40s this morning. There is snow on Mount Washington up the valley. You can see it. And winter's coming, baby. Winter's coming. All right. It was sort of a quiet week this week. As you know, we did the video on the Roseberry sale. That was a bit of excitement. And if you haven't had a chance to see that yet, go back and look at it. It's over on the YouTube channel here. It's an interesting sale. I heard from them, and they liked the video over at Roseberry's. They thought we gave them a very fair review. And I think it was an interesting thing. It's one of these events that doesn't happen too often, where you go out as I said in the video, you go out on a house call and suddenly you're presented with something you maybe weren't expecting. You get a surprise. You get something really wonderful and great that's just there. And that's one of the great things of the antique and the auction business. And any auctioneer will tell you that. They'll tell you that there's nothing more fun than going out to a house call that you're not, you know what it's going to be there, and suddenly it turns into something that is it's a moment and you're never going to forget it. And that this when they came upon those bowls in that pantry on those plywood shelves, it's something they're going to talk about for a long time. All right, a couple of things are going on. One of them is there's a sale coming up in Hong Kong at Sotheby's, and I don't know if you've seen it yet. Heirlooms from the Poon family collection and Power and Culture. It's a very interesting sale. There's a lot of good calligraphy in here. There's some very fine fan paintings and so forth. There's all kinds of great stuff. If you like calligraphic art, you want to check it out. There's works in here by Fu Shan. As a matter of fact, they've gone through and done a heavy amount of documentation on who the artists were and so forth. There's some good reading in there. If you're interested in Chinese paintings, do check it out. And they also had some very, very good other objects. There weren't screens and scrolls and so forth, but some very rare ceramics and some very good furniture. And one of the pieces they have is this. This is a coral red incense burner, Yongshan Marken period, that's in the sale. It's estimated at $400,000 to $600,000. There's the rain mark on the bottom. It's a beautiful incense burner, and some of you may recognize it. It came from the Edward Chow collection 40 years ago. If any of you have been collecting for any length of time, you all remember the famous Edward Chow collection, which was one of the great Chinese art auctions of the 20th century. That was the one where they put out 3 books. The books today are collector's items. If you can get the set, you're in good shape. I had the set. I know I still have 2 out of the 3 books. I might have lent one to somebody. It's a little lesson about lending books to people. They often don't come back, but that's okay. But at any rate, in the sale is this very, very great looking incense burner. If you're interested in monochromes like this, I mentioned it before. If you don't have the Bauer collection book on monochromes, get it. Someone needs to remind me to do a review of that book. It's probably one of the best books on monochromes that's been published in the last 40 years. It's an outstanding book, and in it they have examples just like this. There are a number of them in the Bauer collection in Switzerland, but this is a very, very fine example. It's got a strong estimate on it, but not a crazy estimate. It's estimated at 400 to 600,000 Hong Kong, which, as you know, is around 50 to about $70,000. I think it should absolutely get there. It may blow it away too, Yongshan. And then there's also this really great 17th century, early 17th century Ming traveling box, document box. And these are absolutely fascinating things. They were sort of like the mini office, the portable office of the day. And they had an inlaid game board that folds up that fits in here in the top, and then all the little drawers for papers and documents. And this is something that would have belonged to either some sort of high-ranking government official, somebody with power, somebody with influence. These were very special boxes, or maybe the property of a wealthy scholar. In the article, they speculated that maybe it was something that someone brought when they went to take the official exams, as they called them, with his notes and papers. papers in it and whatnot. But regardless, this is a heck of a good box. The workmanship on it outstanding. It looks like it's in great condition. It's got a beautiful, beautiful dragon ends reticulated on the end. You're used to seeing these. And in this form, a lot of people often mistaken these for the food carrying boxes. This isn't that. The basic structure is very similar, but this is not a food carrier. This is a papers box, a document box. And there it is with it closed. This is it with there's the front of it. Beautiful metalwork on it. The Huanhua Li is of exceptional quality. The estimate is right up there. It's estimated at 50 to about $100,000, roughly 60 to 100,000. Should get there. Ming stuff has been very strong lately. And then over to this. This is a real monster of a thing. It's a Junyao purple glazed splash Jadao Ming Dynasty. And those of you that follow these know the saga of these pieces, because they were the point of a lot of controversy for a while, because for many years they thought these were all made in the Sung and early Yuan dynasty. And one of the things that they discovered in doing research was that they couldn't find any paintings or artwork that depicted these forms, these Jun splashwares in them. They couldn't find them anywhere. And that they realized was that they were probably not made in the Sung or the Yuan dynasty much at all, maybe at the end of the Yuan, but they were made mostly in the Ming dynasty, they've now learned. And this is a very, very rare type. It's one of these things how we've talked about it before, how what was thought to be gospel as far as the history and origin of pieces, 80 and 70 and 60 and so forth many years ago, that were written about in all the early books. They now know that that was a mistake and they were wrong on that. And they're going around now sort of correcting things the way art historians do, updating dates and so forth on all these pieces in museums that were misdated for so long. And this is one of those pieces. It's a spectacular example. This is one of the great examples of this type of glaze in the world. It's estimated at 8 to 15 million Hong Kong dollars, or roughly 1 to 1.8 million US. If you want to break it down, it's got the mark on the bottom. There it is. These are exceedingly rare, and this is a particularly finely potted example. So I'll be kind of curious to see how it does. Should do awfully well. And also in the sale of this, these are really cool. This is a pair of small round end corner cabinets on stands, and they're Ming. But what's interesting is they're only 36 inches tall. They're very small. These are not the great big cabinets that you're used to seeing. These are small ones. These are sort of very personal little cabinets. And they're beautifully made, exceptional wood quality that whoever the cabinet maker did, as you know, we've talked about before, with Ming cabinet makers, they were very careful to try to match the grains on the panels as much as they could, because these would have been cut from basically the same tree, and they matchbooked them and opened them up and then used one panel on one side, one panel on the other side of the doors, and so forth. And again, you can see here where the cabinet maker was extremely successful at that. This is a beautifully looking set. And they are on stands. I don't know if the stands are original to them. You want to, if you're interested in buying these, you want to, of course, double check that. Are the stands original, or are they made later to go with them? They look like good stands, so you want to verify that, because some of them did have stands, some of them didn't, and they would make stands for them during the 19th century. So you want to check on that. But they don't mention that they're later. They don't say the stands are later, so I suspect they're original to the pieces. They measure 34 inches tall, which is as you know, not terribly big. That's under 3 feet, and they're estimated at $300,000 to $500,000, or around that works out to what, about 40 to 65,000 for the pair, which I think is very reasonable for these. These are really wonderful, and they're unusual size, diminutive size. I think makes them very, very collectible. And the carving on them is excellent. On the apron at the bottom, if you look, they have these wonderfully done volutes going around, sort of in a vine pattern. I like them a lot. They're absolutely beautiful. And then there's another a Jun glazed purple narcissus bowl, or these hobnail bowls. These again, Ming Dynasty. Whoops, where'd it go? There it is. This one has really lovely color. The color, I like the light color on this. This light blue mixed with purple that goes from a light purple to a dark purple, and the way the glaze just flows down here over this edge, like a curtain. They look like drapes. It's beautifully, beautifully, beautifully glazed. And this is estimated at 800 to 1.5 million Hong Kong, or $100,000 to $150,000, roughly, somewhere in there. It should get there. These again are very, very rare. Let's see here. There's a pretty big catalog note on this, and it talks about this catalog note does talk about the debate about the age of these things and when they were actually made versus when they thought they were made for a long time. And there's lots of good information. If these things interest you, always read the catalog notes that they write at Sotheby's. They do a very, very good job of it. They get good people to do the research, and there's always good information to garner from it. And then over here to this, if you don't want interesting Ming cabinets, you can buy these. These are exceptional. A pair of Zitan Qing Dynasty display cabinets. And we've seen this form before, and it's a fairly well-known form and shape, the way they're configured with the cabinet doors down below in the upper section and all that. But what's really interesting is that all the dark wood you're seeing here is Zitan wood, which is phenomenal. And the door panels appear to be extremely well carved. Unfortunately, I don't think they showed did they give you a detail of the doors? Yeah, they did. There it is. Okay, good. There are the doors. Look at the doors on them with these spectacular chrysanthemums coming out of them and all these vines and leaves, curled leaves crawling off, almost Rococo type of leaves, but beautifully, beautifully carved, deeply carved, and fitted with nice hardware. And then they have this lighter wood accenting the display area. And this wood looks like Huanhuali. From that honey tone to it. You could check with that if you're going to pursue these, but they are absolutely great looking display cabinets. If you've got a porcelain collection and you can afford these are something great to buy. For your living room or a dining room to put your porcelains and so forth in. They would look absolutely fabulous. They're estimated at $50,000 to $80,000 roughly, somewhere around there, which $20,000 to $40,000 per cabinet. But that's not a bad price. These are very nice and they're good size. They measure 85 inches tall, so they're over 7 feet tall. These are big cabinets. They're 7 foot 3 inches tall, so they're nice big cabinets, and they would be absolutely great to display porcelain in, and you could even probably work out some way to put a little illumination inside of them, a tiny bit. These days with LEDs, you can put them anywhere, and it would make a fantastic effect for your porcelain collection. And then over here to this is another Zitan Qing Dynasty table, excellently carved, right down the legs, across the skirt, and so forth. Beautiful, beautiful table. 18th or 19th century, estimated at 200 to 500,000 Hong Kong, or that works out to what in U.S. dollars, around 30. Not even 20. Well, the estimate's kind of crazy. 200 to 500,000 Hong Kong. So they're not sure how much this is going to bring. I think that's their way of saying we don't know what this is, a wild card. So it's going to bring somewhere between 25,000 and $60,000 roughly, somewhere in there, 65,000. So that's a pretty big estimate. But it means that the table probably doesn't have a reserve above 20 or so thousand. So you're in good shape there. It's a very handsome table, and it measures 116 centimeters long, or what does that work out to in feet? About 4 feet long, roughly, just a little under 4 feet in length. Good looking table. So it's a good sale, and they've got some other sales that are coming up over there as well, but they haven't published the catalogs yet. And as soon as they do, we'll get to them and talk about what they're offering, because they've had some awfully good things lately. And then over here, just a reminder, those of you, and this is mostly American furniture, and I'm only mentioning this because, as you know, we had that huge hurricane that swept through the Carolinas, and Brunk Auctions was supposed to have a very significant sale of American art and antiques a couple of weeks ago when that horrible hurricane hit them. And those of you that know the story about Asheville, North Carolina, got absolutely clobbered. They were underwater. I understand that Bronx is up on a little bit of a hill, so the facility is probably okay, but they're having an awfully hard time. They're having a harrowing time there in the Carolinas. Apparently a lot of the areas around North Carolina, FEMA has been so far unable to get into after 2 weeks. and there's a lot going on there. If you were wondering what happened to the Bronx sale, here it is. And if you're planning on bid on the sale, send a little love their way with some bids and maybe buy some things. It's a great series of auctions, and I'm just mentioning none of it's Chinese. This is completely out of our wheelhouse, but I can't imagine being Bronx and having this hit, and the impact it's going to have on your community and on your family and on your business, on everything. Everything is impacted there. There's no power. It's a nightmare. They're getting it back together. Andrew there, I'm sure, is working around the clock, and I suspect they're doing some stuff in the community as well. But if you want to help out and you want to buy at the auction, I would recommend it. And there may be some bargains, because prices may be a little friendlier because of the hurricane and how they had to change the date. But there's some awfully nice American folk art in here and early American stuff and a lot of great maritime art in this sale. It's a good 3-day auction. So do check it out. They rescheduled it, and it is starting in 5 days on whatever 4 days from now is probably next Tuesday and Wednesday, I guess, the 16th. All right, so do check that sale out. As results go for the week, there were some good results. There weren't that many auctions this week. There were a few, and the results overall were pretty good. This was Stair Gallery had this. They had a whole bunch of ceramics from the Vungtao Cargo collection that was auctioned off many years ago, and a lot of Americana collectors and so forth bought them. They turned up in America, and this was a wonderful grouping. There were 12 beaker vases and 8 small vases with their covers. And they were all around 5 inches tall. They'd been sold at the note here was they sold at Christie's in 2006. And the lot was only estimated at $800 to $1,200 for some reason. I think that was kind of low. I'm not sure what they were thinking. They're probably just to encourage bids. But at any rate, it ended up selling for $7,000 plus the premium, or around $9,000 for the lot. But this was a heck of a grouping, and of course it came from that famous cargo ship, so you know when they were made. It's all datable and so forth because of the dating on the shipwreck. Shipwreck pieces are always interesting for that reason, because you know that if it's on that ship and the ship sank at a certain time period, that the pieces on that ship were likely made within a year or two of that ship going out to sea. Sometimes things sat in port for a while before they were loaded on, so some of these pieces might have been made 2 or 3 or 4 years before they ended up on the cargo of the ship that sank, but here they are, and but it's a handy dating tool. And there's some interesting patterns that were here, and this lot did very well. It did fine. Did great. And I've noticed something interesting about Stair Gallery. They seem to have a customer base. This is something to know going ahead. They seem to have a customer base that still spends money on China trade, on Chinese export wares. I think they've got a customer base, clientele of people who still buy fine furniture, good decorative art, and so forth. Stair, of course, has been around for a long time. They've got a good reputation, so they have the customers. They have a very good, well-to-do customer base. So if you're thinking of consigning some China trade pieces somewhere, you might want to consider Stair Gallery for that. All right. Don't annoy them with a lot of junk, but if you've got good Chinese export pieces and it's time to sell it, you might want to get a hold of Stair. They're very good. All right. And then this was something that was in the sale. I left a bid on this. I didn't get it. I think I left $600 or $700 on it. It was a very nice Wan Li charger. I liked it a great deal. Thought it was very pretty. It was 20 inches in diameter. It was a big one. And here it is. And this, I think, was a bargain. I don't see any reason why it didn't bring more money. But again, it's not China trade per se. It's export ware for Europe, but it's not what the China trade collectors typically buy. But this was an awfully nice charger. And you don't see any repairs on it. It's got a glaze line over here, and I think that was just from the firing. And 20 inches though, this was a beast, and it went through for 800 plus premium, so about $950 and so forth. You get a heck of a fine piece of Wan Li charger, and this is not a crude example. It's very finely painted. If you look at the details of the flowers, the way the balustrade is done, everything is meticulously done, and the back of it is not peppered with the bucket full of kiln grit like so many of these pieces are. And that's what the back of these big pieces can look like, with these chatter marks, these lines moving outward toward the rim from being on the wheel. $800. I think that was an absolute great buy. That was a really great buy. And then over here to this is another lot that did well. This was a big lot. There were 38 18th century plates in this, and there were 23 soup plates and 13 lunch plates, 10 side plates. It was a massive, massive load of stuff. Hold on a second. Okay, I'm back. One of my children called. He wanted to say hello. Anyway, this was a heck of a big pile of porcelain. People say $500 for a bunch of dishes. But when you look at it and you see what was in here, you had, let's see, you had 2 sauce boats, 3 shallow circular serving bowls, 10 side plates, 13 lunch plates, 23 soup plates, and 38 dinner plates. So you got over 50, 60 pieces here. It's about half or 2/3 of a dinner service. It didn't have the tureens or anything, but you had some awfully nice plates in here. These are all 18th century, wonderfully done, nice pattern, and it's the kind of thing that even as a dealer, you could, they basically sold for about $80 to $100 a piece. So this was a pretty good buy. $5,500 for all of it because it's a set. So you could, if you're a dealer and you bought this, you can now sell pairs of these plates until the cows come home. And people love to buy pairs or groups of 4 and so forth. You could play around with the combinations, see which works best for you, and sell them off that way. If you're a dealer who bought this, and if you bought them for your own house, instant dinner service, perfect, wonderful, wonderful thing. And with the buyer's premium, it ended up being about $7,000. But again, China trade stuff does pretty well at Stair Gallery, I have to say. Now, this is something that didn't do well. It didn't even sell, and it was a mystery to me. This is a very nice. If you don't mind going around and talking to auction houses post auction, you might want to get a hold of them and see if this is available. This is a very nice Sung Hanan glazed jar, pottery jar. At first, I thought it might be Tang. I don't think it is. I think it's probably Sung, but it looks absolutely legitimate with the draping effect of the glaze, this white paste down here, and all this. It's about 7 or 8 inches tall. There's the bottom of it. This is a nice looking pot. I don't know why it didn't sell, except that maybe this isn't in too much in the typical Stair Gallery buyer's warehouse, in their realm of collectors too much. But it's 7 inches tall. It's a very attractive jar. It had a $300 to $500 estimate, and maybe if you give them a call, you might be able to buy this for a couple $100. It's a very nice piece of pottery. Something for those of you who like Sung pieces, something worth looking at. All right, and then hopping along over to this sale. This was the Allers and Ogletree sale. I'm going to talk about the sale a little bit. It was a very interesting auction. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago, and a lot of you will remember this bowl came up because it's obviously in the Kangxi style, but whether or not it's Kangxi was the question. And a couple of weeks ago, I said I suspect it's probably a little bit later, but awfully well done. And a couple of our users actually got more photographs of this piece that confirmed that it was a later bowl, but very nicely done and very much in the most desirable form. One of the most desirable types of Kangxi wares there is. So even though it was probably a later 18th or 19th century bowl, still did very well. It went way over the estimate, it went 4 times its high estimate by the time it was done. Sold for $1,800 plus the premium, so about $2,100 all in and done. But a very nice example. If this had been a Kangxi piece, it would have brought, you could probably add a 0 to that price, and it would be about where you'd land or more. This was a very, very nice example. Beautiful colors, and I like the aubergine color of the farmer with his ox and so forth, and the poem above him. It was very well done, classically done, and then you have peaches and so forth and flowers on the interior. Nice piece of porcelain. And then over to this was a very good buy. It was a large, they called it navy blue for some reason. I don't know, usually they would say auspicious blue, but a 10-inch punch bowl, 18th century, looks like Kangxi period Amari to me. There it is. Or well, no, with that decoration in the middle, probably Yongchen or early Qinlong. There we go. But still, a bargain, a great buy. $300 plus premium for this. This is a 10-inch bowl. I didn't see any damage to it. An outstanding buy. And this was a sale that took place down in Atlanta, Georgia. All right, and then over to this. We talked about this plate a couple of weeks ago because I just thought the back of it, the history of this plate, when you flip it over, this was the one that had all the staples in it. And somebody loved this piece to death. They just loved this piece because to go through all this to pin it back together with staple repairs they do in China, of course, and you pay for each staple because each one has to be the little points on the staples have to be hand drilled into the porcelain, and they put in the staples and then pull it together. And it's a real skill. It's a very difficult way to fix things. And you look at this, the back of this, it looks like a bunch of zippers laying on top of it. Now somebody went through it and used some sort of adhesive and took the staples out, which is fine. It doesn't hurt the piece at all because it's already been hurt. It's already been shattered into a million pieces. But things like this I find interesting because it just shows you how much people really cared about the objects that they own. I don't know why they show the leg of the stand. It's irrelevant. But beautiful Kangxi decoration on this. Very, very pretty plate. I thought it was great. And somebody picked it up for $225. Now, this was a big plate. It was 15 and a half inches in diameter. So it was a charger. But that's a heck of a piece of decoration with an interesting aspect to it with all the staples for a couple of $100. To me, that's just such a great buy. The kind of thing you know as a collector you want to have that kind of thing around. They're always interesting to think about and contemplate. And then over to this, 3 pieces of lidded little shakers. These were sold by Mr. Moog down in Atlanta, where he did so much business. When Chinese stuff, I've said it before, because Chinese stuff comes out of the Atlanta area, expect to see Moog stickers on it. And here you have this 18th century Qianlong period tea caddy with the parrot on a perch in blue enamel, and this is a very classic type, the form with the scroll wave bottom on it. But this is unusual. That's a very rare tea caddy with the parrot on it like that, and then the nice fitted silver shakers on top. The redware pieces, the iron red, the copper red pieces beside it. I looked at the photos of these, and there they are. And they appear to be 19th century, so they're perfectly nice, and they're certainly worth some money. But the most interesting part was this tea caddy with the parrot on it. It's a very, very unusual thing, and somebody bought all of them for $350 plus premium. That was a good buy. That was a very, very good buy. I think the tea caddy with the parrot was probably worth what the price was. So you got that, and they threw in a couple of other nice 1800s copper red pieces with silver tops as well. And they all came from Henry Moog. All right, and then over here to this set of 17th century blue and white plates, 17 pieces rather, I should say, all sort of different patterns and so forth. And we talked about this in the preview. I thought it was a nifty grouping. And 17 plates, all 18th century, all differently done, different patterns. There are probably some pears thrown in here and so forth. And they were awfully nice. And they went for $1,800 plus the premium, which is a good price for these, a good strong price for them, but not a crazy price. I thought the estimate was artificially low, but they were very attractive looking porcelains. And it shows you, that you can as a dealer, you want to look at these lots if you are a dealer, or if you're a collector. Like I've said many, many times, if you see a pattern like this plate in the middle, if you don't have that pattern, contemplate buying the whole lot, get out the pieces you want, sell off the rest, and you may make a profit, and certainly you'll get back most of your money in most cases. So you're not actually spending any money to build your collection. You're sort of leveraging your wallet to build your collection. And then on to this. This was a terrific thing, and I had asked them. I had gotten a hold of them for a photograph of the top of it without the silver silver lid on it. This was a piece of Hirado ware, but a very, very nice piece of Hirado ware, beautifully done. And you have this heart-shaped cartouche and this fan-shaped cartouche, which we often see on Japanese porcelain all the time. On plates and bowls, you'll see fans and scroll cartouches, and so you also see them on Chinese. This was a piece of Hirado, and this would have had a lid that wouldn't have been too dissimilar in general shape than the one that they used in silver. And they may have had the broken, maybe the original porcelain lid broke, and they took it down and showed it to a silversmith and said, "I want you to make, a silver lid that has this general shape to it that fits this piece." But I asked them, I wanted to see the top of it to see if there was any damage around the inside of the rim or anything else going on with it, because they didn't provide it, and they never got back to me, so I never bid on the thing because I would have liked this. And but the butterflies were beautifully, beautifully painted. The spearhead borders around the top are nicely done. This is a really lovely piece of Gerardo. Very, very nice. There's the bottom of it. There's the lid, and there's probably got a taboo ivory finial on it. But it's, as they say, the federal government, it's a de minimis amount, so it doesn't really matter. Any rate, it sold for $650 plus premium. It was over the estimate. I figured everybody who's looked at this. I talked to a couple people who were looking at this, and everybody thought, yeah, it's probably going to bring $800 or $900, and it did. It ended up selling for $650 plus 30%, or about $800 roughly. But a very, very, if one of you bought this, you got a great piece of Gerardo. Great piece. And then over to this really nice pair of blue and white, sort of, they're calling it Buddhist motif bowls. I don't know why is it Buddhist? Looks like a duck standing on a post. I don't know why this is Buddhist. At any rate, they're nice looking bowls. They're obviously one Lee period, very nicely shaped. See what the bottoms look like? There you go. They look fine. They were estimated at $150 to $300. They didn't have any date on them. They're 6 inches in diameter, and they sold for just $300. So I guess it was sort of a rough week maybe for one Lee pieces. 300 plus premium, so $400 roughly, all done and in. And then over to this, I had a pile of inquiries about this on the identification service. Everybody was interested in this Quanjon style painted landscape box. The only issue with it had a star crack in the bottom, and there was a fair bit of wear to the gilding. But overall, this was a really well done piece, and it was a nice one. It was clearly 19th century. The top of it looked fascinating, the way it was painted in the round, as though so no matter which side you looked over at the lid, you'd be looking up through mountains and then the sky in the background. Very, very nicely done all the way around. But it did have this big star crack in the bottom. The feet looked okay. The original feet looked to be in good shape. It measured 10 inches in height, and it sold for about $1,000 with the buyer's premium. Which is perfectly reasonable. If it didn't have the star crack on the bottom, it probably would have brought $2,500, $200 to $2,500, somewhere around there. Would have brought a lot more. Would have brought a lot more without the star crack. But a nice looking thing. And then over to this. This was sort of the bargain of the day, and I'm totally mystified by it. It's an 8-inch Wan Li dish. It had some papers stuck to it here and here and here. That's not damaged. That looks like just paper or something that was stuck to it from storage. And 2 birds on a plinth. It had a $350 price tag going back years ago. There's the back of it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with this plate. Nothing at all. Absolutely one Lee period. And as I've said many times to people, if you want to buy something, leave a bid. Somebody left $50 on it, and they got it. And I hope one of you got it. I really do. This was, well under the money. It should have brought $200 to $300. Somebody got a great buy. This plate was 8 1/4 inches in diameter. It was very nicely done, and it was late Ming. So bravo on somebody whoever got this. And then this was something in the sale. And I've said before, sometimes you can get really good buys on things that are misidentified, because people who search on Live Auctioneers or Invaluable or any of these sites, and they're searching for Japanese things, for example, all they do is look at Japanese things. If they're searching for Chinese things, they only look at Chinese things. And if somebody had Googled this or searched this sale for the Chinese porcelains, this wouldn't have turned up. This is a Kangxi period enamel and underglazed blue decorated dish that was misidentified as Japanese scallop rim shallow bowl. This was clearly not a Japanese bowl. It's a Chinese bowl, and it measured 10 and almost 11 inches in diameter. There was absolutely nothing wrong with it. It looked quite elegant, actually. I like the balustrades at the bottom, and then these giant flowers coming out of the top and the shaped rim. Here's the back of it. All right, that's a Kangxi bowl. That's a Kangxi dish. And somebody got a bargain. They picked it up for $125 plus premium. That's the way to buy these. And it was not a small thing. It was a 10-inch one, so it was only an inch away from being a charger. And this is what can happen. So always look, if you collect Chinese stuff, you should, and you know what to look for. You always want to look at some of the Japanese stuff because Japanese stuff is often misidentified as Chinese, and Chinese stuff can be misidentified as Japanese in some cases too. And if you have that crossover, you stand a pretty good chance of getting a good deal on it. This piece only had 12 people watching it. And I know I can guarantee you that if it had been identified as Kangxi period Chinese, it probably would have had 30 or 40 people watching it, and it probably would have brought $300 to $400. So it's just one of those cases where pay attention to what when you're looking for things, try different ways to search. And you might find a bargain. This was a total mystery to me. This was a wonderful little terrine. If anybody bothered to look at it, it was 11 inches in diameter. This is not a small bowl. This is almost a foot wide. This is a big terrine. It's probably, judging by the workmanship, notice the secondary decoration behind all the flowers and so forth. This appears to be a sort of a late Edo period example. I don't see anything really wrong with it. It's got an old star crack on the bottom. That's true, but 11 inches in diameter. It's a big piece of amari, and it didn't get a single bid. Starting bid was 200, got no interest at all, passed. So if you're an amari collector and the starting bid was 200, you get a hold of Olds and Ogletree and see if they'll sell it to you for, let's see, where they're, Olds and Ogletree Auction Gallery, Atlanta, Georgia. Yeah, give them a call down in Atlanta and take a look. All right. And then over to this lot passed. Again, a very nice giant pair of Japanese Amari chargers. These are fairly well-known patterns. It's a fairly well-known type, but it's a pair. And these were measuring around 20 inches or so in diameter, as I recall, 19 and a quarter inches, starting price of $250 or 100 and a quarter a piece. Now, they're a little expensive to ship, I give you that. But if you're looking for a great pair of Amari chargers to hang on your wall, call them up and see if they're available post-auction for the opening bid, or maybe offer them 200 and see what they say. You might get them. And then over to this is a lot I bought. I absolutely loved them. Both of these are 17th century Japanese Arita ware. And they were on the global pages. I bookmarked them and I decided to buy them. The plate on the right is around 16 or so. What was the dimensions on this? 16 and 3/4 inches diameter. So basically a 17-inch 1680s or 90s charger with a Wan Li style but Japanese piece of Arita ware. And it was around 14 and a half inches in diameter. These were both terrific. The big one has some old gilt kintsugi repairs on the back, which is perfectly fine, but it's a very recognizable type. If you collect Japanese Arita ware, you'll instantly recognize this pattern, and you'll instantly recognize the one on the left, obviously. Well, the reason I bought it was I have a number of Chinese examples that look like this, but I wanted to get a good Japanese one to add into the mix, another one. So I bought them both, but they didn't cost me anything. I left a bid on them of around $450 for the lot. I ended up getting them for $2 1/4, which is a very good deal. I'm delighted. So with buyer's premium, they cost me $150 a piece, and these are big pieces. They look like small dishes. This is why you always want to check dimensions down here in the bottom. You always want to look at the sizes. And there were only 7 people watching this lot to begin with, anyway. And when you only see 7, it means 1 out of the 7 might leave a bid. That's about it. 16 and 3/4 inches, very lovely. I'm absolutely thrilled with that. We'll be having those shipped pretty soon. All right, and then hopping along over here to this, the Qing Dynasty. These are things that are coming up. This is down in New York, I believe, right? Luxor in Queens. This is a really interesting basket pattern, first half of the 19th century plate. And we've seen this pattern before, of course, on 18th century porcelains. But in this combination with Canton decoration, with the butterflies and insects flying around it, this is a very interesting. If you're a Chinese export collector, you know right away. This is a very unusual pattern. Very unusual pattern. And the basket is absolutely beautiful, but it is done in the Qianlong way, the Qianlong style. And then you have all these very finely painted butterflies, and the flowers I noticed on this are particularly well shaded all the way around. If you take a look at the pinks and the roses and so forth, whoever decorated this did a really fine job. There's a better picture. There it is. This is absolutely vibrant. Beautiful colors, wonderful plate. It's not a big plate. It's about 12 inches diameter, I think. Something like that, 12 and 3/4 inches, almost 13 inches. It's estimated at $1,000 to $2,000, which I think is a little bit heavy, but I wouldn't be surprised if it brought $800 or $900. It's a very unusual type of platter, very unusual pattern, circa 1830 or 40. And then hopping along over to this. This is just for those of you that like rugs. You want to take a look at this Northwest Persian carpet. They call it Bejar. I don't know if it is a Bejar or not. It's Northwest Persian. But it has these very wonderfully done cypress trees and willow trees on it. Absolutely beautifully woven rug. This is a great rug. The pattern is exceptional and it really works. Here's the back of it. Yeah. I don't think it's a beater. I think it's just a regular Northwest Persian rug, which is fine. Those are pretty desirable. Those are very desirable. But the weaving doesn't look like beejar work. But maybe in person it would. I don't know. But the warps don't seem depressed enough. But at any rate, this is a beautiful runner. Absolutely gorgeous. And it looks like it's in good shape. It's a late 19th century example. If you're looking for a great rug to put in your house, this is a good one. It measures 16 feet in length, though. You got to keep that in mind. It's a fairly long rug. And it's 6 feet, 6 inches in diameter. So it's not 3 by 12 feet. It's 6 by 16 feet. So this is a big rug. But boy, if you have a spot for it, what a beautiful carpet. And the estimate, I think, is very reasonable, $800 to $1,200. It should break through that very easily. It's already got 16 bidders on it, and the sale's not for another 10 days. But this is a wonderful carpet. And then also in the sale coming up, and that was over at, I want to get the auction house right. This was at Andrew Jones in California, Andrew Jones's sale. All right. And then hopping along over to, no, who did this? This was also, no, that's Luxor. I want to make sure I got them all. That's Andrew Jones. And then over to this. This is Tom Schwenke down in Connecticut. It's got this, a nice Chinese export memorial charger from the Arms of Holt. On it. It's a very nice example. It was circa 17. They're dating it to about 1765. I think it's about right. It looks absolutely filthy. I looked at some pictures. I think looks like they pulled it out of a dirty closet. Here's the back of it. That's one house dirty piece of porcelain. That's how they look when they've been in a pantry or tucked away for too long. Nobody's given it any attention or cleaned it. But it's a wonderful example and sort of early mid-Qianlong period, but beautifully enameled. Estimated at $1,000 to $1,500. It's 13 3/4 inches in diameter, though. It's a charger. It's a big piece, almost 14 inches wide. It's got one bid already of $500. The sale is on the 22nd at Schwenke's down in Connecticut, Tom Schwenke. And then over to this. This is also in his sale, right? Yeah. I'm mentioning this because many of you will recognize this. If you go to Google and you type out Kanobari, you are going to find rabbits, and you type that in, you're going to find pages and pages of reproductions of this rabbit. It's one of the most reproduced of the Japanese prints for some reason. People just love these rabbits. I do too. But this is this appears to be an original, and he died around, I think he died in, what is it, 1914. He was a scholar, 1895. Excuse me. He was around 50 years old when he died. He died pretty young, but he was an art teacher. He's very well known, fairly prolific in some areas. But these rabbits that he did became iconic for some reason. And as I said, if you go to Google Images and type in his name, Kano Bayari, and then put in the type in rabbits, you're going to see a whole page of them come up. And this is one of the originals. So if you like stuff like this, it's almost like folk art. I like it a great deal. I think it's terrific. It's only got $100 to $200 estimate. It's $50 opening bid. It's got one bid already. The sale is on the 22nd, but it's a neat thing. It's one of those things that I don't think you'd ever get tired of. Wonderfully done. All right, and then over here to this. This is Andrew Jones's sale. We're back to Andrew. He's got a very nice Chinese lacquer game box. Malay Brothers has one of these coming up, and he has one coming up. It's got original wooden feet. It's got an old split in the lacquer on the top, but the decoration is all largely intact, and it's a very fine quality of decoration. It's a very high quality type of decoration, very meticulously done. Lots of secondary decoration. And down here across the apron here, you can see lots of very fine gilding and black lacquer work going on. And as I said at the beginning, it's got its original feet, and here are all the inserts for the playing cards and so forth. And it's got all of its fitted interior boxes. So it's a very nice one. The estimate is $500 to $700, $250 opening bid. Should bring $600 to $800. These turn up often enough that you can predict them. And now on to this. And this is at Andrew Jones. This is a height 28-inch tall. And this looks like a cornerless pronk jar. And they didn't identify it as such. You want to look into this. I think, this looks like a legitimate piece of pronkware. From what I can see here, it's 28 inches tall. It's a big one, a very big jar. I don't see anything in here that makes me think it's a reproduction, and I'm really mystified at the estimate. But this all looks very, very good. It's got 8 people watching it. The sale is on the 23rd, and those of you that like pronk and cornerless pronk and so forth, you definitely want to look at this. The foot rim on it. We'll get over to the bottom of it. There it is. That looks absolutely fine. That does not look like the bottom of a reproduction. That looks like the bottom of a 1737 piece of porcelain. And those of you that know the story about Pronk and his designs and the snake, the way it's done here, and this was a cistern originally. You can see where the hole is plugged up. May have had the spout cut off of it. I don't care. This is a very rare bird, and it's a big one, 28 inches, 71 centimeters in height. The estimate is just $1,500 to $2,000. This should bring 10 or 15,000. This is a heck of a good looking thing. I don't know what happened or why. Maybe they didn't know about cornerless pronk, but this is a very rare piece of porcelain. Andrew Jones has it, Los Angeles. The sale is on October 23rd. It'll be on the global. All the stuff that we're talking about, if it's not on the global pages yet and on the Patreon pages, it's all going to be there by tomorrow, by coffee time tomorrow morning. We've got it all stacked up and ready to load. This is one of them. Definitely check this out if you're a China trade collector. And then over to this. This is also in the same sale. This is very nice 18th century cobalt blue jar with gilt decoration. Looks fine with a later fitted hinged flange top for locking up the teawares. For some reason, though, they ground the edge of the rim down, and the only reason I could think of doing that, if it got a chip out of it or something happened to it, and they wanted to tidy it up before they turned it into a table lamp, they may have done it, or it may have had something to do with when they mounted the hardware. I'm not sure, but regardless, this looks like an absolutely fine 18th century piece. This is the bottom of it. That looks like 18th century work to me. The color of the cobalt looks good. The gilding looks good, and the estimate is nothing. It's $400 to $600. It's 23-inch tall jar with its lid. It should go well beyond that. It's got 10 people already watching it. I suspect it'll get up to probably $1,500 or so. But it's a very nice piece of blueware with gilding. So if you like that kind of thing, absolutely check it out. And then also in this Andrews Jones sale are 2 very nice Japanese screens. If you're a Japanese screen buyer, check them out. Check them out. This is one of them, a samurai scene. This looks like an Edo period screen done in the 18th or early 19th century. From what I can see, most likely 18th century. Beautifully done. It looks like it's in pretty good overall condition. It's got a few areas here from the creases, but that's about it. Nothing disastrous, that's for sure. Very displayable. And this is a good sized screen. I should point that out. It measures 65 inches in height, so it's over 5 feet tall. So you could hang it on a wall in a room. It would make the room. And the estimate, look at that, $500 to $700. If you live anywhere within driving range of Los Angeles, you might buy something really great for next to nothing, because screens are a nightmare to ship, having shipped them myself over the years and later regretted it because it's such a pain in the neck to ship them. So the only competition you're probably going to have for these are the serious company people that are within driving range. I don't know how many Japanese collectors there are in Los Angeles. I assume there's a few, but you might be able to get yourself a very, very good buy on this screen. This is a good one, and this is a good one too. This is a figural landscape scene of a scholar with a child teaching him. He's sitting on a tiger rug, and here you have this very elegant, trim balustrade going around the edge of a garden. These very old pine trees, all gnarled, climbing up into the sky, and the water behind them, and the rocky scenes and all this. This also appears to be an Edo period screen. It's got some rubbing here and there on the surface, but the estimate is $500 to $700. It also measures 66 inches tall, or around 5'4" in height. Again, opportunity to buy something really great for your house. Buy both of them. That kind of thing. They're absolutely wonderful screens. I know we talk about Japanese things more and more these days, just because I've had so much feedback from a lot of you that you are Japanese. You also like Japanese things, and I didn't realize there were so many of you that do. So Bravo, because I also, as you know, I like Chinese and Japanese and Korean and all kinds of things. I like whatever strikes my fancy, but I'm delighted to hear so many of you are interested in Japanese porcelain and decorative art, because I think it's a very worthwhile category. All right, and then over here to this. This is also in the Jones sale. There's this very handsome big pair of Japanese Amari. They have some good Japanese things in the sale. That's what I mentioned. These are 37 inches tall, little over 3 feet tall, little over 3 feet tall. Big pair of Meiji period Amari vases. Very nicely done. They look like they're in good shape. The estimate is nothing for $800 to $1,200 for the pair. They've already got a bid. They'll probably get up there. They'll probably bring $400 or $500 a piece, I suspect, by the time they're done. But these are really nice. And if you like Japanese Amari, look into it. And the last thing is this large Japanese Canon Bosatsu. This is a big piece. And it looks to be Edo period. What is this? 54 inches high. So it's over 4 feet tall. But very nice quality, very good carving. And it reminds me a lot of that very lovely lacquered carving that was in the Doyle sale. It was estimated at 8 to 12,000. I was shocked that didn't sell. I was absolutely stunned that didn't sell it. Some institution didn't buy it. It really is. I felt that was such a diss on that. The piece was so badly dissed by not finding a buyer. That was a great piece of lacquerware, and this is a wonderful piece too. I think this is extremely attractive. It's got a very nice old surface on it. I like the folds in the robes. I like the facial expression, and it's big and it's gutsy. And the estimate on this is just $1,000 to $2,000. It's got 12 people watching it. See how it does. This all came from one collection, by the way. The estate of Daniel and Natalie Schwartz in Rancho Mirage, California. There's a lot of wealth in Rancho Mirage, and I'm sure they built up a very nice collection over the years. At any rate, this is the Japanese piece, estimated at $1,000 to $2,000. It should absolutely sell. If it doesn't, I'm going to hang my head in shame. But another great piece of Japanese ware. And then, of course, this week we'll have the newsletter page over on bidamount.com, all updated. I haven't seen too much of the stuff yet because I'm away, and I'm trying to get it into the eBay in our eBay account so I can copy it all out and upload it onto the Bidamount weekly newsletter page and so forth. So do check it out later, and let me know. By the way, last week we mentioned that we split the buy it nows from the auction items, and a few people said they liked it that way better. But let me know if you like it better that way, or do you like it mixed up? I personally think it's better and it's easier to navigate with it split up into two different types. So you have buy it nows and auction items. But if you have a preference, let me know. I'm interested to hear what you think of that. All right, and that's about it for the week. We're going to be here for a couple more days. We'll be back home Sunday night, but we got a few things we need to get for other things. There's always more stuff to do up here, but it's fun to do, so it's good to get out of town. All right. Have a great weekend. Subscribe here. If you haven't, join us on Patreon on the global pages. If you haven't subscribed yet, it's, as I've said many times, it's how we do the site and put money into new cameras and software and pay the monthly server fees around the world, because we're on 2 different servers now, and so forth. So anything you can throw in the cup is fine. All right. Have a good week, and we'll see you all next week. All right. Bye-bye.